Kia ora koutou. NZCR is excited to introduce our new PAT, Tuhituhi PAT writing assessment to you. My name's Melissa Denzler and I'm Education Advisor and a researcher here at NZCR, and I'm also part of the development team for this assessment. So the aim of today's session is for you to understand what the assessment is, how it works and who it's for. You can have a wee look at the writing tasks and genres. We're going to explore how auto-marking works, and finally how to use the reports to support teaching and learning. PAT Tuhituhi is an online standardised writing assessment designed for formative use, and it's administered through PAT NZCR Assist platform. It assesses students' ability to produce extended pieces of writing in a specific genre, selected by you from persuasive, narrative, recount, or explanation writing. These genres map directly on what the available data suggests are the most common genres of writing taught in Aotearoa. The assessment includes a mix of auto scoring and optional manual scoring, and it generates instant feedback for kaiako to understand ākonga position and progress in their current writing development. This tool was developed with a really strong focus on equity and cultural relevance. It acknowledges that our learners come from diverse backgrounds and have a wide range of writing experiences. It was developed with extensive input from kaiako, piloted with 3 kura in late 2024, trialled with over 7,000 students in term 1 this year, and we had more than 18,000 writing samples marked to train and test our AI scoring model. It's a low-stakes formative assessment, and it's not designed for streaming or ranking. Rather, it's there to help you understand both where your students are in their writing development and what their next learning steps might be. At this stage, the assessment is designed for students between years 5 and year 10. PAT Tuhituhi assesses across 4 genres. Narrate. This is where ākonga write creative or fictional stories. They're encouraged to use characters, setting, plot, and narrative techniques. Recount. Here, ākonga describe real events from their lives or imagined real-life scenarios. These texts are personal, sequential, and reflective. Explain. Ākonga provide detailed information or explanation about a particular topic. This genre assesses clarity and structure. It helps the audience understand the subject matter thoroughly, often by answering the questions how or why. And finally, persuade. Here, ākonga write to convince the reader of an opinion or an argument using reasoning, examples, and other persuasive language techniques. This assessment involves ākonga responding to a writing task. 12 tasks have been developed for the first iteration of this assessment. Each of the 4 genres has 3 tasks, 1 for each year level grouping, years 5 to 6, year 7 to 8, and year 9 to 10. The tasks are locally contextualised, socially and culturally inclusive, and contain references that are familiar and relevant to students in Aotearoa. Here are some examples of the tasks. Some of the tasks also include images, and where we did include images, they were carefully chosen to reflect the experiences of ākonga here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. There are recommended tasks for each year level grouping. However, kaiako have the option to be flexible when selecting these tasks. The assessment evaluates how well students communicate ideas for a given audience and purpose, and using appropriate structure, language, and writing conventions. Each of the 4 genres is assessed using a tailored rubric covering focus and purpose, content development, organisation, language use, voice and style, mechanics and conventions. So for focus and purpose, the rubric explores how well a response demonstrates overall focus of the topic, awareness of audience and purpose, and meets the demands of the task. For content development and elaboration, it explores how well a response develops and supports the main idea or content and provides elaboration with genre-specific elements and details. Organisation. This is how well a response demonstrates a cohesive, appropriate and logical structure and uses paragraphing and appropriate transitional strategies to link ideas and content. Language use, voice and style. How well a response establishes and consistently maintains a style and tone appropriate to the audience, demonstrates control of language, uses language that is appropriate to the task, and uses varied sentence structures. And finally, mechanics and conventions. How well a response demonstrates control of grammar, punctuation, and spelling. This is the recount rubric. So the 5 elements are highlighted across the top of the rubric. And for each element, there are 6 score categories. They're on the left-hand side. Now, these score categories don't relate to a specific curriculum level or ages. Rather, they represent a progression of writing development for each element. Each element is scored on the 1 to 6 scale, and they reflect developmental progression rather than year level expectations. And within each element, each score category is further illustrated by a descriptor. And Kaikohu can use these scores to understand strengths and identify next steps for teaching and learning. It can also be used as a moderation guide when marking across teams or schools. Now I'm going to briefly cover how the assessment works. PAT Tuhituhi is fully online and administered via our Assist platform. So to get started, you need to select the appropriate task. While there are recommendations, again, tasks can be used flexibly. Log on to our Assist platform and generate tokens for each student. Provide students with devices that have keyboards and internet access. We recommend avoiding tablets without external keyboards. During the assessment, students move through a number of screens. The task introduction, planning screen, writing and editing, and self-reflection screen, where students share their thoughts about writing. The first screen gives you an example of the online tools that students can use. We've tried to make this as close as possible to a natural online writing experience for students, so they are able to use a number of writing tools during the assessment. They also have access to a menu button at the top right-hand corner of the screen, and for this, ākonga can adjust the font size and style, can change the contrast of the assessment display. And if your ākonga are familiar with our PAT Pāngaro or PAT Pānui, they'll be really familiar with these features. Ākonga should not use word lists, graphic organisers, dictionaries, or other online writing support tools or websites during the assessment. The next screen introduces the task. The following screen takes ākonga to the task and a planning box, and this is where they can start planning for their assessment. Ākonga can then move on to the next screen. If they've written something in the planning box, that will move with them onto this screen. Students then begin to write their response in the My Writing box. They can check their spelling and editing using the online editing tools. We've included these tools to make them a really valid online experience like Google Docs or Microsoft Word. Once they have checked their writing, ākonga can then click Submit. And as a precaution, when they click submit, they are asked again if they are sure they want to. Finally, after pressing submit, ākonga are taken to a final screen where they're asked to reflect on 5 statements about their writing. Auto marking. What happens next? Responses are only sent for scoring if they contain more than 50 characters and 3 elements of punctuation. It's not necessarily that there's something wrong with the writing, it's just that it can't be auto-scored. What happens is that it comes back to you and it gives you the ability to reopen that response, and a student can continue to write if you want that option. There's also the opportunity for you to set the response as confirm unable to mark if you don't want the student to revisit their writing. If a piece of writing can be sent for scoring, there are 2 possible outcomes. One is successful auto-scored result or needs review result. Any needs review outcome will have a comment that tags the issue with the written response and will need action taken by the school admin or kaiako. Here are the possible needs review comments or results: off topic, repetitious, unknown words, insufficient development, poor syntax, or a copied question. Now, we'll be monitoring auto-scoring and unsuccessful auto-scoring events and working with our scoring provider to identify issues. And as we gather more student data and analyse where and how schools have manually marked or updated auto-scoring marks, we'll be able to improve our auto-scoring performance. So in summary, after submission, responses that can be auto-scored are sent for auto-scoring, and then the results are returned immediately to NZCER Assist, ready for reporting. The reports. So PAT Tuhituhi provides 2 types of reports. The first is the individual report. Now these display the student's writing, rubric scores, holistic feedback, and the student's self-review. And these reports can help guide personalised feedback and goal setting. As of today, and this is a very new screen because we only just did it last night, we have an initial scale score. And so the scales, we have a scale score and margin of error, which is probably something that those who are using or have used PAT are quite familiar with. Updates will be coming next week with minor scale score adjustments. Scores within rubric elements, if you can see, actually are within a range, and so there's a relative difficulty range across the elements. It's neutral at the moment across the different genres, but again, as we get more data and train our model, we'll be able to make these more accurate. Now you can also click on a rubric element to view a pop-up with details about the selected element. So it will display the rubric information for that element and the student's score. And the final section of the individual report includes a holistic comment, which has been supplied by our auto scoring. It also has 3 tabs that are the planning, the writing, and the editing activity of the student. So the editing tab shows a track change view and allows you to see how students have edited or made use of the online writing tools when crafting their writing. The final section displays the 5 self-review questions that students complete at the end of the assessment. And here's an example of a student's, the 3 tabs. The first one on the left is the planning that the student has done. On the top right is their writing, and you click on the tab for writing. And then when you click on the editing tab, you can see the changes that that student has made to their writing. The second report is the rubric list report, and this displays all completed student responses within an assessment along with a description of their status. The report includes summary statistics of writing scores across the 5 elements and an overall score. The successful marking table contains responses that have been successfully auto-scored or manually scored. These reports are really helpful for identifying teacher priorities and identifying planning differentiated instruction. So in summary, we have 2 types of reports. The individual reports that show student performance across the 5 elements, gives a holistic comment, and also shows you the changes that students have made. There's also the class and rubric list reports for group level analysis and student reflections, which gives you insight into how students feel about writing. NZCEA can offer support in a number of ways. We have the Kaitohu Guide and Assist Setup Guide available online. Our help desk provides admin and technical support, and our education advisors can offer schools and sector online or face-to-face PLD and analysis. There's also a demo assessment that has just been put up this week for you to have a wee look through yourselves.